Yes, so I'm Shirvington Hannays, and I am Guyanese by birth. However, I reside in Canada, Canadian Guyanese or Guyanese-Canadian. I always get it mixed up. I am a Canadian certified addictions counselor by profession, and also with the designation of certified clinical supervisor. And that simply means that I'm qualified or certified to work with persons who are now coming into the industry or the field to help work with them until they can be able to work on their own and make certain clinical decisions about a person's treatment and recovery, etc. Prior to leaving Guyana over 26 years ago, people might know me as the guy that did some stuff at Theatre Guild and the Cultural Center and that kind of thing. So Guyana is home, very passionate about what's happening here. I'm keeping abreast. I have been working for more than 12 years, doing stuff with a few not NGOs, as you would say, in Guyana. My interest in addictions started because I was very fascinated with Amy Winehouse and Whitney Houston, and when it was alleged that they had issues around substance use. When they both passed away, I was really, really taken back and confused and almost depressed about two people I never met, but couldn't understand why, with all their resources, they couldn't just get over this thing, use all the resources to get beyond it, and more than anything else, survive it. So I made a decision to switch from my then profession as a systems analyst, programmer. Loved it, but helping people, doing tech support and consulting and all that wasn't my idea of helping people. So I decided, okay, I can help people in a more direct way. So I decided to go to school, change everything, go to school, to do a course of study specifically in addictions and community work. Prior to that, of course, I've been doing quite a lot of work as a volunteer. I believe in volunteering. And so the switch wasn't just, okay, I'm just now going to become this person who is going to understand addictions and go work with people and try to fix them. Well, at least most people, when they enter the industry, that's what they're thinking. You're going to go fix someone. After I finished school, I did a lot of work with families, doing mainly stuff with mental health. A lot of work with young people, with kids, with autism and ADHD. And then I got the opportunity to work exclusively in a shelter where a lot of times people with homelessness usually have co-occurring disorders, substance use being one of them. So at that time I was an intake worker. I did stuff processing people to get in. And then I decided, okay, it wasn't enough. I need to continue my studies. So I started doing a lot of research. Research on suicide, substance use, and depression. So I went on to do some studies with the University of Liverpool in the UK, and I studied the brain, the mind, and behaviors. So I'm fascinated by the brain. Everything for me that I've discovered and where I'm at right now is not about the substance, and which is good, because here in Guyana, to address alcoholism, we're going to have a challenge, because culturally it's something that we almost embrace as a natural part of socializing. If you can't hold your drinks, boy, you're not man enough. At least that's what I was told as a child or a young adult here in Guyana. So where I'm at now, I have my own private practice, and during the pandemic, it's a good thing that I already had this concept in my mind. While I spent 3 years in Jamaica, I thought, this is like 25 years ago, that, you know what, I would like to help people online. And so I came up with the name SMAHO. So SMAHO is self-motivation and healing yourself online, which is a part of my initials, and OO, which I borrowed from Yahoo, so it's SMAHO. So I now have what is referred to as a virtual space or clinic that is hybrid and now going to be called a spa experience. a spa experience because I want to address, yes, mental health and mental illnesses, but I want to also attack and try to help with the awareness and engaging people to address stigma around mental health, mental illness, and substance use disorder. At the moment, most of my clients, I work with them virtually because one of my designations, in addition to being an addictions counselor and a clinical supervisor, I have a designation as someone who can do telehealth or telemedicine, in that I can work with people remotely. I'm certified to work with people remotely. So I've just brought that, attach it to the work that I do virtually that I was doing during the pandemic, because everything shut down and most of the work that a lot of clinicians were doing was virtually. So you log in, you have the experience of face-to-face contact, but I'm taking that a step further. Because of my background in systems analysis and design and programming, I'm pretty comfortable with IT. So I've leveraged that along with my performing arts background. So it's going to be what we call an edu therapy platform with multimedia things that you can use to help with self-care. One of the things that I think the pandemic forced us to do, with all my training, I still had some very dark times during the pandemic. I live out in Calgary, and yes, for at least 6 to 8 months, we have very cold weather. So the pandemic of being shut in on top of cold weather, gloomy outside, I had my moments. Why? Because a lot of people ask, well, substance use, did you use substances? That's why you're so interested in it? Well, like I said, Amy Winehouse and Whitney Houston, but once I got into the field, I realized in my family, there were a lot of alcoholism. And no, I don't have a lived experience in terms of becoming dependent on substance, losing everything in terms of substance. And why I keep saying substance is against addiction, that's a distinction just like mental health and mental illness that needs to be made. If you go into what we use to diagnose a person, the DSM, which is Diagnostic Statistical Manual, or the ICD, you wouldn't see the word addictions. Addictions is a generalized thing that was used to say, okay, when people are wanting the stuff, dependent on the stuff, needing the stuff, what really is a substance use disorder or addictions is when a person have an impulsive way of behaving, thinking, compulsive way of behaving, being, you're thinking about the stuff, you're obsessing about it, you'll do anything to get it, you spend a lot of time using it, and then you spend a lot of time recovering from it. That should sound familiar to some people in terms of what alcohol is about. Once I got into that, unfortunately, it wasn't until after I finished my studies that I potentially could have had a substance use disorder. I worked very far from home and I would drive, and then I started falling asleep because of the long hours I was working. I started using caffeine pills to stay awake. And then I realized that even when I didn't need the caffeine pills, I was wanting the caffeine pills. And that's usually how it starts for, quote unquote, a substance use disorder or an addiction. When I came into the building, I had a very interesting question about, okay, what's addiction? So we have to make that distinction as well. There is, quote unquote, substance use, and then there's process addiction. Those people who like to watch a lot of pornography, those people who like a lot of impulsive, compulsive sex, those people who shop a lot, those people who overeat when they are full but still continue eating, those are addictions. If we look at our brain, we scan our brain, the same area, the same region that craves for a substance is the same area in the region that if you're obsessively gambling will become activated. So, what the Change Clinic, as it's called, smahochange.clinic.org or Smaho or Change Clinic online, is that you'll be able to log in. You'll be able to then either watch videos. One of my signature products is called How to Rescue Yourself from a Relapse. So I have an entire program that I did on Facebook and LinkedIn that you can then by yourself be able to watch the episodes on demand, and you can get the necessary tools how to rescue yourself. So for example, what I've come up with is a very brief approach to rescuing yourself. So one of the hallmark signs of an addiction or a substance use disorder is secrecy. You might start experimenting with friends, but eventually, if it's really a substance use disorder, you're going to keep it a secret. So I say, if you relapse, return to old behaviors that are rooted in a certain way of thinking, you should call a live person. If you can get yourself to call a live person, it means you're not willing to keep it a secret. So that for me is a brief intervention. If you just do that, you're fine. It shows you're committed to getting back on the wagon and staying quote unquote clean. The other brief intervention is your willingness to look at how did you get to a relapse. So you're going to have within the virtual space access to webinars that you can attend just like group therapy once a week, twice a month, or once a month. How is it going to work? The way it's going to work is that my gift to Guyana is that just like Canada, where once we're sick, we can go to any doctor, any healthcare facility, and they have to take care of us for free. I want to use the same concept with the virtual space that any Guyanese, I don't care how much money you have, I don't care how much money you don't have, should have access to mental health wellness care. Not an illness. You don't have an illness. You don't have a diagnosis that you have schizophrenia, bipolar, or personality disorder. No, 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 no. You must have a checkup constantly about how you're functioning. Are you easily irritated? You're sitting down and you can't concentrate. All those things are indication that you may not be functioning to your optimum. So let's look at the guys, for example. When we have issues with depression, it's not the same way as a female. For example, some of us are very irritated very easily. We lose interest in what are the things we used to find pleasure in, and that's an indication or a sign both for male and female as to depression. Because when the World Health Organization had declared Guyana as being number 5 on the list of countries with suicide, Fox News, for example, labeled Guyana as having being the suicide capital of the world, and I got very active and was campaigning to ensure that no, we're not the suicide capital of the world. But a psychologist said, based on the number of people that suicide in this country, at least 1/3 of the population, a very small population, have a diagnosable mental illness, depression or anxiety. I agree with him. The amount of trauma this country have gone through over the years, the vicarious living with certain things that the media, sorry, please don't lock me up, but I must say, the media, how you report on certain issue, vicariously people are traumatized, and that generational trauma lives, and that's why people snap very easily. People get desperate very easy. All that is mental health wellness. Why? The World Health Organization says mental health is not the absence of an illness, but one's ability to adaptively respond to life's challenges. That's mental health. I say, based on what my favorite writer, and he was also a psychologist and psychiatrist, M. Scott Peck, he wrote the book, The Road Less Traveled. Lots of people with addiction or substance use disorder or alcoholism use that book. It talks about discipline. But the first thing he says in opening the book, life is difficult. The Buddhists say the same thing but with a different word. Life is about suffering. I say life has the potential to be difficult. Why? Because we don't know what's going to happen next. We plan, we have all the best laid plans. But because of that, that's why people turn to substances. So, with the virtual space, with the virtual clinic, like I said, any Guyanese, I don't care where you are, should have access to virtual or integrative mental health care, universal. So, how it's going to work? Yesterday I had, or the last 2 days up until yesterday, I had the opportunity to work with a very, I was so impressed and blown away by how well they have it organized, the Phoenix Recovery Project, got it, and they're going to be like an agency that with referral to them, they'll be able to set you up, because I know credit card is not the ready thing here. The reason why there's going to be a one-time, a very nominal fee to get people signed up. Your Guyanese, either I'll process it because the rest of the world will take care of the cost. Oops. Because the rest of the world will take care of the cost in terms of payment or subscription, either monthly, annually. But there's a one-time fee for life for anyone Guyanese or of Caribbean heritage. Why? Because I'm working in a strategic alliance with a Caribbean voice. I know it's going to kill me if I forgot that. With a Caribbean voice, and we have now started doing work across the Caribbean. So yes, even our Caribbean brothers and sisters will be able to have access, but my main focus for the give back is for anyone with Guyanese connection, especially people living in Guyana. Like I said, it's going to be tricky because it's a part of our culture. The substance is not the problem. If the substance was the problem, it would not be legal. Cannabis is now legal in Canada because it's not the cannabis that's the problem. It is the abuse and the misuse or recreational use that leads to loss of control. What we need to do is consult with the population and get their take about how they understand the use, misuse, and how they view alcohol and alcoholism, and get a good understanding of that. You see, what keeps happening and why we keep missing the opportunity, and not just here in Guyana. I don't want anyone to think that I'm beating up on Guyana, because believe me, we don't have it right in Canada in a lot of ways, or else, believe me, we would have had a handle on it. But we need to consult with the population. The way we've been doing it is that we say, oh, let's train the doctors, let's train the nurses. But let's be fair and honest. How many people in their lifetime make it to the hospital unless they have an illness? Not many. So the opportunity for them to be engaged with someone who've been trained to pick up the signs and symptoms of alcoholism, for example, especially if it's not integrated within the regular healthcare system, you're going to miss the opportunity. So guess what? Uganda got it right. What Uganda did, we have in society what is called in any society gatekeepers. And gatekeepers are those points in the society where people turn to when they're in need of support, whether it's mental distress, whether it's emotional distress, crisis, they turn to those people. How many of them are going to go to the hospital? Not many of them. You know where they go? Some of them go to the religious leaders. So yes, religious leaders are a potential good opportunity for what I call lay counselors. But they have to make a distinction between what is mental health, what is mental illness, and yes, what are your spiritual crises that you may be in. We have to differentiate those three. They're not one and the same, and unfortunately they get mixed up. So what Uganda did, Uganda turned to their witch doctors because that's where people go. Our equivalent, the opiate people. Oops, did I say that? Yes, I said it. So the Obi people are going to have to show up. You know why the Obi people? As someone who lived in this country until my young adult years, I know that people go to church on Saturday, go to church on Sunday, even during on Wednesdays. But you see, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, when they got a problem, they're going to the Obi person. And it's not because the Obi people are bad people. The witch doctors weren't bad people. They were ill-informed. So they got a grant of 250,000 Canadian dollars, and they trained 500 witch doctors, 500 plus witch doctors. They were then given the necessary tools and skills to be able to identify what are the signs and symptoms when a person show up and they're feeling not able to have a lot of energy. So as against thinking that someone did them something, they were depleting in the basic things why most people get depressed. There's a lack or an imbalance of motivation, which oftentimes has its roots in what we call dopamine, a neurotransmitter, or serotonin, and they were then triaged or sent to see the limited amount of psychologists and psychiatrists within the country. Uganda brought the mental health issues down. South Africa, Zimbabwe, you know what they went to? They didn't go to the witch doctors. They went to the grandmothers and had them on the trees within the village, and they would sit there and people would go there with their problems. But those grandmothers were trained to understand the signs and symptoms. I say go back to the community and understand the people's language, because people are talking, people are showing you the symptoms as media people you would know. All these things that are happening are signs and symptoms of a bigger issue with the oil wealth that is at the beck and call of Guyana. I say if we do not address two things, the mindsets of people and their mental health wellness, we're not going to be able to optimize productivity. And unfortunately, we're not going to get it right like Nigeria and all the countries that didn't get it right. Ghana got it right with their oil resources. I heard the country's in touch with Ghana, so good for you. But take some insights about working with the natural resources of the human factor in the country. I don't want to come here to tell the government what they must do. I have a lot of faith in any government in place that they have the best interests of the population at heart. Just like running a home, I think sometimes people get it twisted that running a country is easy. And I'm not saying that because I'm here with you at the Chronicle. I'm saying that because it's the truth. As someone who supports the current government in Canada, they get a good beating, but they mean well. What should they do? Is what I said earlier. Consult with the people. Don't come up with stuff way out in your office and think that's what's going to work. It has shown, it has failed miserably. Consult with the people. I'm not saying that they have to hire me. I've been making myself available for free. But yes, get people who have a track record of working in the field. So one of the reasons why I can say this with some amount of authority, I have training in healthcare innovation. Take the same thing that is there and tweak it a little bit and innovate on it. So for example, what I said about the safe space is that for the launch on the 30th of April, it's about saying it's open, it's available, use Phoenix Center to be able to start with them. In fact, we start the first week of April to have a soft launch where we're going to be working with the clients that are at Phoenix to have weekly and bi-weekly sessions with them. The more people we can get on board to show that, one, it's working, we can then roll it out big time to the wider community. I can come here, I've registered my practice here to be able to do consultation. So I'm saying consult with people who are coming and saying, hey, we would like to work with you. I am not discrediting the work. I was blown away by Phoenix. So it shows that the resources are here, but I think we're doing it a little back to front, if we want to use that term. We need to consult, engage with the community, do consultation, hear what they're saying, and then try to put it in a way that yes, the doctors and stuff should be trained. But I'm saying we're missing the opportunity. We don't have to say, come, OB people, come, let's work. We say, for those people who like talking to people and supporting them, if you think that you're one of them, come, let's train you to understand it's real. Because that's what I hear your question is saying. How can we address this? Because it's real, we have to take it seriously, but not coming from the standpoint that we know what's best for everyone. Thank you for having me.